Welcome to a football show, Tuesday edition, week 1 edition. Football is here for your Tennessee Titans. That is Paul Kuharsky. I am Braden Gall. We are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Sinkers Beverages, 4-time liquor store of the year. Tennessee Titans, not the 4-time defending champions of the AFC South. Paul, good morning on a Tuesday. How are you?
Good morning to you. I am well. Lots going on. Ready to roll.
Man, lots of good stuff. Make sure, of course, you are subscribed and checking out paulkuharsky.com. Good stuff about Cody Barton up there today, so make sure you go check that out. And when you are watching pro football or college football, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday night, make sure you search Uber Eats for Sinkers Beverages and have that booze delivered directly to your house or watch party, wherever it is you might be watching NFL football, which is back, baby, back this week.
I talked to Eric Weddle for that Cody Barton piece. And, sometimes you get one of those old guys and he's very reluctant. Found his number, sent him a text.
Utah great.
Yeah. Found him a number, sent him a text. Heard back from him that night. Hey, I'm just home from practice. He's coaching a high school team. Just home from practice. Give me 10 minutes and I'll give you a call. Could not have been more enthusiastic and talked to me like we were old friends. And I'm like, have we talked before? And he's like, my phone is acting like we have. So maybe I talked to him like for a Hall of Fame candidacy or something. Unbelievable guy. Unbelievable. Made me fall in love with talking to old football players again.
There you go. Well, as a huge, as a fan growing up of his in college, and then to see his career in the NFL kind of overachieve every step of the way, not surprised that it had something to do with his ability to connect with other humans.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
Cody Barton, he mentored Cody Barton, even though they were not teammates. I mean, even at Utah. I mean, they were just fellow Utah alum and have the same age.
I was pretty upset with myself actually talking to Cody yesterday in the locker room that I did not notice that his brother played both ways and scored a touchdown for Utah on Saturday night against UCLA. Big
I'm
win.
Pretty disappointed that you're my college football guy and you didn't notice that.
It was very late at night. I was exhausted. It was very late at night.
Braden, by the way, we haven't plugged this, is writing at paulkuharsky.com once a week. I think it's going to be Thursdays. Looking back at what we should have noticed and talking about what we should be looking for in the coming week with regard to an eye on the draft. And you guys know that I think it's ridiculous to be thinking about the draft during the season, but I am serving my membership because there's draft talk all year round. And so at paulkuharsky.com, I'm looking to serve my membership, and I have now 3 people contributing on a weekly basis who are doing things that I can't do. And Braden is one of them. So Come join, read.
That's very kind of you. It's funny. Like, I know when you cover the team, it's frustrating to talk about the draft, but you have to view the draft as its own sport. Like, it's a whole other sport. It has its own season. It's its own sport, and it has huge television ratings that are, on par with most other sports. So as long as you just kind of view it as its own, like a separate thing to cover, obviously they're related and it's tied together, but why not enjoy the college football now through the lens of the Tennessee Titans needs?
This was educational for me. I heard names, during the Ohio State game, and I was like, oh, I read about him. I'm more prepared to watch him through a Titans lens than I otherwise would have been. So a healthy new feature at paulkuharsky.com.
And those guys on defense did pretty well for Ohio State.
The guy you didn't write about that was fascinating, and Matt Patricia.
Well, it's because no one ever thinks he's going to do anything good. And then the one game he's good. Good morning, says K-Dot. Here's the thing. I posted this early today because I had some other things I needed to get done. So I built the show, as they say, on the back end here. And Cam Ward's burner says 757. Let's go, guys. I wouldn't be surprised if that actually is Cam Ward's burner. Like he'd be the guy to actually name his burner after himself. Like I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in like a I don't care kind of way.
He's very busy at 7:57. I mean, he's several hours into his workday, and I doubt he's taking a break.
No, I hear you. My point, not that this is actually him. My point is that like I could see Cam Ward being like so irreverent about the whole thing that he's just going to call his burner account Cam Ward's burner account because he just doesn't give a shit.
Would be clever.
It would be. All right. Okay. So lots of stuff to do today. Also, barbecue, not today. And not tomorrow, but Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, Sinkers Beverages, paulkuharsky.com. And we'll have more deep dive into sort of the state of the Titans with Nick Suss. Huge story today on Tennessee and on Thursday. So we'll get into that as well. Yes, Forrest. Tough weekend for the Why Pick Cam Ward when you could have Arch #1 next year overall crowd. Yeah, that's true. That's true. There you go. Yes.
One game. Game.
Right. Week 1 is a liar. That's for sure. Ed says, great work, Braden. Love the article. See, there you go, Ed. Thank you, sir. There you go. Okay. We're going to do a lot of stuff today, and we're going to go through sort of the AFC South. I know you're not big on like game by game predictions, and I hate game by game predictions, but we might look at some overall record projections, ballpark areas for all these teams in the AFC South. What's the playoff picture look like? The hierarchy in the AFC. Obviously, we'll define some success and define what progress looks like for this team, different parts of this team, and who has to take some of the biggest steps, or who we think will take the biggest steps forward on the Tennessee Titans. And then we'll look at the pressure. And this is, I mean, like in internet lingo, this is a hot seat conversation, but it's not really. I want it to be smarter than that, and I expect us to do that. And that is sort of Callahan, Nick Holes, Denard Wilson, Chad Brinker. What is the actual sort of expectation and pressure around the jobs they need to do this season for the Tennessee Titans? So lots of stuff to get to today. I think we did all the housekeeping, PK.
Yep.
We did. I think we did all of it. All right. So in the AFC South, I don't think there's any discussion with Houston. And for the record, Nick and I will do a lot more sort of Denver news and notes in the Denver game coming up on Thursday. So we're going to kind of look a little bit more big picture here at the season. And I don't think you're not picking anybody other than Houston to win the division, right? Like
I'm not, though. I'm surprised. Like some of these simulations, ESPN had a ridiculous simulation come out yesterday that, had the Titans go 9-3 to start the season. And look, go ahead and get excited about crazy stuff. I think Houston's got to be pretty enthusiastic in that Ursary has won the left tackle job over Cam Robinson. So ahead of schedule there. I think their whole season really is about that offensive line that they've revamped, a new offensive coordinator, new offensive line coach. But if that offensive line can hold up, and you've got Ursary at left tackle, Titus Howard at right tackle, Lakeland Tomlinson, an experienced left guard. This division's a lot about offensive line play. I guess every division is, but their weaponry, even with the running back deal, Nick Chubb is obviously old. But guys like Damian Pierce and Woody Marks fill in.
They're loaded. They're loaded.
And their receiving core is just ridiculously loaded. And their defensive pressure. I mean, you want to differentiate them from the Tennessee Titans. Look at Will Anderson. Look at Danielle Hunter. Look at Aziz Al-Shair as a pass rushing force. Look at Mario Edwards as a piece. Sheldon Rankins. I mean, that front, Danico Autry is out for a while, but I mean, they've got pieces that can rush the passer. I just think on talent, they're superior, and D'Amico Ryans knows what he's doing.
They might have like a top 5 cornerback. They have a couple of. I mean, they don't have a lot of weaknesses other than the offensive line. And really, the reason I wanted to bring that up is like I don't know if there's a lot to discuss about this team. I think the discussion around Houston is more around their total upside. Does C.J. Stroud take a step forward after a step back? Does the offense it's more about, are they an 11 or 12 win team that can actually win a couple of games in the playoffs, or are they kind of treading water as a 10-win division champion, right? Like I think that's more the conversation.
They've kind of been left behind in the conversation. Like nobody's talking about it. Everybody talks about the top, and then about teams that I feel like, for as little as the Titans have been talked about overall nationally, and people know I don't care about this, it has turned up a little bit in the preseason because of the Cam interest. And what's the interesting storyline in Houston? I don't think there has been one. I think they've kind of flown under the radar, and they probably like it that way. But I think I agree. I agree with you. I think like the question is, are they just a division winner, or are they a good enough division winner that they're going to threaten one of those top AFC teams? And we know who they are. But either way, I think they're pretty comfortably the best team in this division.
I think what's interesting is I think we did something sort of like right after the draft, kind of in this vein, like hierarchy in the AFC. What do we feel after the draft and free agency? What are things that have changed? And I felt like, and I don't know where you're at on this, I felt all summer I was kind of on this merry-go-round of Jacksonville, Titans, Colts. I can make a case for each of them to be pretty good and maybe be the second place team. I could also make the case for all of them to be last. And so I kind of went around and around. I do feel comfortable saying Jacksonville has the best players. They have the best talent. And if it works, they will probably have the best quarterback this year. And if you have all of those things, it's hard to say that they're not clearly number 2 in the division. I'm not saying they're playoff team, but I have settled on Jacksonville with their high-end talent at pass rusher, at corner, at safety, at receiver, they just have more stuff. Linebacker, than both, I think, the Titans and the Colts at this point.
There are also some very interesting numbers floating around. This got me excited because I got stuck at quarterback in a fantasy draft lately, and I ended up with Trevor Lawrence
as your starter.
A Trevor Lawrence / Matthew Stafford combination, which is not good at all. But then I looked.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, my guy established the run is my site, and Evan Silva is my fantasy guy, and he's got Trevor Lawrence, around 7 or 8, and then I started to see some stats with what Baker Mayfield did in year 1 of Liam Cohen. Now I don't know if Liam Cohen's going to be a good head coach. I think he could be, a very good coordinator in a head coaching role. But Baker Mayfield's numbers got so much better in year 1 with Liam Cohen in some categories where Trevor Lawrence was not good last year. That got me excited from a fantasy player perspective, right? And opened my eyes about some potential for them. It's funny. Coach Willis is saying, "Ew." I do this thing in fantasy drafts where I believe people should wait. Yeah. And I just wait for them to wait. And I'm in a draft where they don't wait, and I stick to my guns on waiting.
Yeah.
So in another one, I ended up with Goff, who I think is satisfactory. I don't love him. But then I was in one last night where people actually waited. And
even better.
I was thrilled. And I think I got Baker in that, which is who I really wanted. But in this one where people didn't wait, which is the Titans Media League draft, people were drafting damn backup quarterbacks before I got the quarterback while I was sticking to my guns. That's where I wound up with Lawrence and Stafford.
Well, you got to go quickly on your backup if you're going to wait. That's the right strategy, right? Like if you're going to take Lamar Jackson,
but they're taking backups before I get to my starter.
Just because you're
I'm sticking to my guns.
Just because you're in the media doesn't mean you know anything about football, Paul.
No, all of us are in the media in that league.
I know. Maybe
they should know better than just lay off the quarterback.
Maybe one day a little old Braden will get an invite. Maybe one day. All right. So by the way, a football show fantasy draft with all the listeners, the people that actually matter, coming up tonight. So make sure
those two. I had a PaulKuharsky.com draft last night.
By the way,
I'm in a Robbie and Rex Road draft tomorrow night. And 4 drafts is too many drafts, by the way.
I'm in 3 currently, one with a football show, one with my in-laws, the entire extended family, and one with a bunch of experts from way back in the day with 6 IDPs, and that's a keeper league from Athlon and all back in the day. But here's the funny thing. We do have some requests around and some ideas around the winner of a football show fantasy league. This is a good interlude here before we get to the Colts, I guess. And that is that we're gonna have a great lunch on 440 at Shotgun Willie's Barbecue with Paul Kuharsky and Nick Suss.
That'd be great.
We're gonna have
eating. The commute's a little long for me. Maybe I'll get gas money.
Right from this facility. It's right there by the facility. We'll do it on a facility day. So
put up Eddie there on Baker. Let's take a minute on Baker Mayfield. I love Baker Mayfield. I think he gets all the credit in the world. He's evolved through multiple coaches, and I'm not giving it all to Liam Cohen, but Liam Cohen helped him step up the ladder. I mean, Liam Cohen's gone. He wasn't
two of the worst organizations. Two of the worst organizations in modern NFL football. Too. He had to go through before he landed it in Tampa Bay. I agree, and I think there was a certainly I had this whole don't trade back, team trade back. I got some flack for all that with the Cam Ward stuff, and I settled on the Baker Mayfield benchmark. If he's as good as Baker Mayfield, he's 100% worth the pick, and you got to take him. I think
that was a good selection of a guy.
And I don't think but I think some people took it as a negative.
No.
on Cam, and it's not. I think Baker Mayfield is a totally good quarterback in the NFL.
You want him to get there quicker.
No.
You want him to get there quicker.
Yeah, of course. Well, he got the Browns.
His second year was damn good with the Browns, and then things went awry. But it was more organizational than it was Baker Mayfield.
I think what's interesting about Jackson, I just think you look at, and not to go back to fantasy because that's not what I'm trying to do here, but they have high-end talent at wide receiver. They have a tight end who can make plays in strange. They've got 3 good running backs. If Lawrence is healthy and Cohen does the things with the offense the way we think he can, then they have a lot more pieces in place for the next 2 to 4 years than than the Titans or the Colts. And now I like some of the Colts pieces. I don't know if they all line up. I love Tyler Warren. I love Jonathan Taylor. They're not going to line up for very long, right? Like Josh Downs is nice. There's some pieces there. There's just nobody to throw the football to him. I don't believe in Jones, and I don't trust Richardson to be healthy. I think that's where the Titans can make some ground up, because the Colts, if the Colts don't bottom out and the Colts sort of like average performance is probably just a little bit better than the Titans' average performance. But I think the Titans' best performances will be better than the Colts. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let's do this on Jacksonville, I'll say. Is Liam Cohn better than Brian Callahan in first year with better to work with? Is he more like, I know we're flipping sides of the ball, but is he more like Mike Vrabel? Is he more like DeMeco Ryans in terms of, I know his personality is far different. I know his personality is more different. But in the way he deploys the personnel and has early success with better personnel. So which one of those 2 avenues is he taking? I think is a fair divisional conversation. I have no faith in the Colts. I think the Colts have treaded in deep water poorly for a very long time, and they're sinking. I think ownership has been a mess, and we know why. Not to tread on the dead. And his daughter was very involved, but I think she's bright enough now to assess and dismantle. After this year, they blew the quarterback pick. I mean, how much do you get away with the personnel? I think Ballard's a terrific guy, and that's why he survived this long. Yeah. But time's up, and I think that team goes down some more before both guys lose their job. I don't think they're better than the Titans, even personnel-wise. Maybe at some spots, but like their weapons, I'm not impressed with their weaponry.
I don't think they have like this is their worst position group is like better than the Titans' worst position group, but their best position group is not as good as the Titans. Like they're more like a bunch of 78s. The Titans have like
they've got a good offensive line. The Colts, pretty good. But
everything's a B minus.
I'm not banking on Daniel Jones. I think Richardson emerges somewhere along the way, either because Jones is playing poorly or because he gets hurt. Yeah. Defensively, they can be stout up the middle, in particular with Buckner and who is it?
Well, they got Quiddy
Glover
Pay
or whatever.
Yeah.
He's
Alexander, is that right?
He's quite I'm forgetting his name, which is disrespectful because he's quite a good player. There's no punch to them. In the same way, there's no punch to the Titans. I just like the Titans' chances to punch up better.
Yep. I think the moments where it hits for Tennessee, whether it's the defensive line, whether it's Winston and Snead being on the field at the same time because the secondary is healthy for that game, or Ward just has a couple of out-of-body experiences, which I think he's capable of, then I think that's where you see the Titans have the ability to kind of jump above the Colts. And I do think that's going to be the difference, is can the Titans sort of how consistent can they get from week in and week out and sort of slowly elevating their sort of standard of play from week to week, which I think is the goal. And we'll get to this because there's a bunch of Cam comments here. Forrest says, I think Cam is more mature Baker than Baker was as a rookie. I don't think Baker was immature. And I certainly agree with your point about Cam. I think he is quite a mature player for his age. If Ward turns into Baker, that's an absolute home run in my book. That's how I always meant it to be when I was kind of drawing that conclusion. And this is the real one here. Ed says, and we're going to hear from Callahan momentarily, I measure this year's success by Ward, using Levis's game at the Steelers where he played well but couldn't finish the final drive. He threw that interception in the red zone there. I need Ward to win that type of game and a couple more like that. Certainly the wins would be great. I think if he puts the Titans in positions to win games in the moments that matter, we're going to define success in a minute, but I do think that is progress. I think that it's not necessarily if you make the throw every time, but it's the first step is putting yourself in the right place to win the game.
Grover Stewart's the defensive tackle on the Colts. I couldn't think of. The thing about Cam being in a situation to win that game, sure. If he's in a situation to win that game like Pittsburgh, you want to see him win it. Can this team get him in position? I'm concerned about the defensive weakness. Yeah. To stay close. Can they stick around? That means their point total going up and the defense's points allowed going down. And just the pass rush. Everything to me comes back to that damn pass rush. And I just think, I know they don't face as good a slate of quarterbacks as they did last year. And thank God for that, because I think they are just carve-upable.
Yeah. Carve-upable. That's a new one. Here is Brian Callahan yesterday at availability prior to practice on sort of Cam Ward's current situation.
I still think it's in the same vein as those other questions that we got to go prove it. We're going to find out. But that being said, the work these guys have put in, the way that we've practiced, their attention to detail, their execution over the course of this time makes me feel really good about what's around them. And we're going to use all the players on our roster on game day. I mean, they're up on game day. We're going to use them and find a role for them. So I'm excited about the process. I'm excited about what these guys have put in. And then now all it's left to go is to go do it and prove it. And I'm looking forward to that.
Prove it, and we're going to find out. Those were his themes on virtually everything yesterday, and I respect it, and it's the right thing to say. Here's the problem. They're probably going to get blasted by Denver. They're at altitude. They're against the team that had the most sacks in the league last year. Who knows what Cam's going to do in these very tough circumstances, right? And so I think the fan base, it's going to be hard for them to swallow what may be good. And still the answer on Monday, no matter what happens, is we've got to prove it. We've got to be good. And then the fan base is going to say, well, you're not proving anything. You look like crap, blah, 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 And it could be that way after week 2 too, because the Rams are very good at winning, right? They're not a great team, but they're Vrabel-esque in that way where they're built well enough and coached well enough that the odds of them coming to Tennessee and losing to a team that they are better than are low. And so you start the season 0-2 likely, and you're saying we've got to prove it, and fans aren't going to take that very well.
Well, and I want to get into the other side of the ball real fast because I think the other side of the ball is interesting too. Sean Payton, Bo Nix, lots of weapons. If you're going to, look, quick passing game, generally that's bad for a team without a pass rush. In general, you're going to get the ball out quickly. With Bo Nix, very accurate, short to intermediate passer. What's interesting, if you're going to try to spin it, is they got a rookie starting running back, and you've got a defensive line that could shut that part down and turn them into a one-dimensional team. If Snead is healthy, this might be the healthiest he could be all season. And so, in theory, you might have guys that could disrupt that quick and decisive passing attack on a second-year player that you now have tape on. There's a lot of players on this team that actually have some experience with Denver. There's like 3 or 4 of them. And so, that's the argument for them going out there and being better than we expect. But to your point, here was Callahan on the offensive line, and essentially same thing. It is we're very happy with where we are. We're excited about the progress. Now we just got to go do it.
We've earned some confidence there. But again, we're going to go face probably one of the premier fronts in football. We're going to find out. These guys are really, really good. They're good against the run. They rush the passer as good as anybody. So yeah, we got a real stiff test, and we're going to find out. But I feel good about where we're at. I think a lot of it's due to the work put in. You see that we're a more talented group up front. I think from positions 1 through 5. So looking forward to the test. I think it's going to be exciting.
But just it's not an ideal matchup, and I hope in-house they aren't downplaying altitude the way he kind of did. It's like, yeah, we're a well-conditioned team, and it's just something you deal with. I honestly, and maybe I'm in, I don't want to say in panic mode. I'm setting an over-under right here. I'll do it right here. 16.5 snaps for T'Vondre Sweat.
Wow. Okay. Just because he hadn't had a lot of time to practice, large dude, and altitude. But here's, like, not to belabor kind of a silly point, not silly, but like I don't know if it matters what Brian Callahan says outwardly, because I don't think it's anything you can really deal with per se. Like, it's not like you can just go train a mile off above
No,
sea
you can't.
level.
You can't.
Like,
It is
there's
a mental thing.
You kind of just have to
in
say
the
it and go,
moment-
yeah, we're going to deal with it.
In the moment, how tough are these guys with regard to that? I think we'll learn something about their toughness, because you do have to just kind of fight through it. But if you're dizzy and you're winded, I don't know how you fight through it.
Your middle linebacker and your center both played for the organization and
Yep.
played at altitude. That's important. Those are two good positions. They're going to be doing a lot of calls. They're going to have to use their voices a lot. They're the
Yep.
ones going to have to do a lot of the sort of getting people organized. So that's good. Cam actually, I mean, being at Washington State for 2 years, played a lot of games in a lot of different places out on the West Coast. So it's not like he doesn't know about that area. Now, again, Denver versus BYU or Utah, like I don't know. But I don't think it's not that you downplay it. I just don't think you can do anything about it other than just train all like, you want to be in as best shape as you can for every game. It doesn't, like, that's kind of all.
You're right. You're right.
I'm starting Cortland Sutton this week, 20+ points. There you go, says Eddie in his fantasy league, talking about the Denver wide receiver. Let's see here. Ed Henry says, if they're up, we are going to use them as to oppose to 5 tight. Ed, what is he saying here?
Poorly worded.
Yeah, let's try that one again. And I'll get through some of your comments here. I got Tennessee at third. I'm not going to ask you for a game total.
No, I have them at
Tennessee
third too, and I had them at third last year. I don't like the Colts at all, and I think you could at least see reasons for the Titans to be trending up. I can't find them for the Colts.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I just think everything about Indianapolis could be just average. Now, maybe that's better than what the Titans are, but I don't know, because I think when the Titans are better, I think when the Titans are good at their best, they will be better than that, in my opinion. So I just don't know how often that's going to be. That's Brian Callahan's job. When you look at the rest of the AFC, I don't think there's not a lot of debate around the division winners, PK. Like Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, and Houston seem to be overwhelming favorites. Do you have anybody different winning a division in the AFC in your mind? Is there somebody you really like to sort of upset that hierarchy?
I won't be surprised. I don't love Denver. And I think
I like
Slater,
Denver a lot.
I know the Slater injury for the Chargers hurts, but I won't be totally surprised if Kansas City does not win the division. I know that's kind of a popular take. Bills are winning. And look, I don't think you can shoo anybody in the North just because it's always such a slugfest. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to go right, but if Pittsburgh goes right, they could be right there. I don't think Cincinnati's going to go right, largely because I picked Cincinnati like every year.
If they could be the same team,
disappointed.
Cincinnati's offense and Pittsburgh's defense, it'd be a hell of a football team.
Yeah, but I think Cincinnati could conceivably put up a fight. So that's the division I'm least certain about, the North. But, I think virtually everyone who's Kansas City wary and tired says it's the Bills or Baltimore. They're due, and one of them's going to the Super Bowl. And I would say one of them's got to get themselves home field to do it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. You need to bring Mahomes to your building. That's for sure. Because Joe Burrow's the only one that's gone out there and won a game in the playoffs, right? In terms of going out to Kansas City and won a game in a critical situation.
Yep.
So I like the Chargers because of how they're built. I think Justin Herbert's one of the more underrated players in the league.
But it's time for him to do something. I mean, we talk about all those quarterbacks, and you could argue that Allen, as good as he is, hasn't. The only one that's broken through is Burrow to get to a Super Bowl. Lamar, as good as he is, hasn't done it. Allen, as good as he is, hasn't done it. And for those guys we're saying haven't done it, I mean, they've been in some meaningful playoff games and stood toe-to-toe and just have come up short.
Well, let me hang on.
The Chargers haven't done anything.
I think there's more pressure on Allen and Lamar, frankly. But if you look at, like, when this is kind of Callahan's view of the system, right? Every quarterback is a system quarterback, with the exception of like three to five guys who are the system, and that's Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, and Burrow. At least those four, and those are four of the best 5 or 6 teams in the AFC.
And what a four! I mean,
I mean, there might. I don't know who the fifth one. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I'm drawing a blank on who the fifth one is. But like almost all of the elite quarterbacks are in the AFC. And then you look at Nix and you look at Stroud and you look at Herbert and you go, those guys. There's not even a lot of pressure on those guys right now because of how much pressure's on Lamar and Burrow.
I think Herbert's next. I think Herbert's the
I
one
agree.
that people have always said, what an outstanding skill set. Guy's amazing. And he and his team haven't done a damn thing. Now, they're trapped behind Kansas City. That's fine. There are wild cards available there.
Yep.
And some of these teams have done some things with wild cards, or, there's a route for you.
So you kind of have some doubts around Denver and busted over here saying like, hey, the Broncos discourse is out of control. Second-year quarterbacks pretty much always have sophomore slumps.
I expect a sophomore slump.
And look, CJ Stroud did it last year. Some of that was the offensive line, the play calling, but those are things that matter in football. The problem I have though, and I know this is like, I don't know if this is just the way the NFL is. The problem I have is I really can't make a case for some of these other teams. Like, I don't think Jacksonville is a 9 or a 10 win team. I don't think the Raiders in that division can get to 9 or 10 wins. Pittsburgh and Miami, I suppose you can make an argument for those two teams to maybe, if everything breaks right, Tua is healthy. But like the conversations around how the team and the coaching staff are like, there's just a lot of.
I think Miami's sinking. I think Pittsburgh is a maybe. Pittsburgh's a big unknown. I'd like to. I'm a big Arthur Smith fan. I'd like to see it work. I hate Aaron Rodgers, so I'd like to see it not work.
But who else is like? I mean, the Patriots, the Jets, the Browns, the Colts, the Titans. Like, you're not picking those teams. I suppose.
No, I think it's very clearly a have and a have not conference.
Yeah.
I think that seventh spot, throws it in. I think we could pretty clearly. I mean, let's go through pretty clearly identify 6 teams. The Bills,
the
Chiefs,
Ravens, the Chiefs, the
Ravens,
the
Texans,
division.
and then who are the next best?
Chargers, Broncos, and Bengals.
Chargers, Broncos, Bengals.
There you go.
Maybe, there's room for teams to squeak in. Who are the squeakers? I mean,
Pittsburgh. That's it.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, maybe a squeaker. Patriots, outside chance on pure coaching, right? And
Drake May could be very good, and I think he will be. I think he's going to be even better in his second year because he didn't have the explosive first year.
I think Jaguars outside chance squeaker.
All right, hang on. Let's a bunch of you guys agree with PK on this. Like, for me, I really like Denver, but I'm picking him third in the division. So is that out of control, or is
that's not out of control? I think they're talking a lot about nationally and maybe a little bit about this game. I think the Titans are getting crushed in this game.
Okay, I got it. I see what you're saying.
And so maybe but we're not. I don't think we're declaring Denver. I don't like Denver that much. I think Sean Payton gets too much credit as an offensive mastermind. I think he had Drew Brees and he only won one Super Bowl. Masterminds do better than that.
Pretty good last year.
I think Bo Nix will recede. I think their defense is quite good, but I think they're second place wild card playoff team. That's it.
Yeah,
is that great? And I think we've established this very clearly a tier 1 here, which is Bills, Ravens, and Chiefs.
Full stop. That's the end of it. Yep. Well, and I think, again, if somebody out there is saying, I think the Broncos are going to upset the Chiefs and win the division, like, that's out of control. I agree.
Yeah, we're not on board.
That's silly.
Neither of us.
I think Harbaugh with the Chargers are too good to be. They're just too consistent and dependable. They may not have the upside to win enough games and win a Super Bowl, but they're going to be. Like, literally, Jim Harbaugh has never done a bad job as a head coach, and they
need more at receiver, and they lost a key offensive line.
Yeah, no question. But I think to suggest that there is a team, that there are a bunch of really hot like in the NFC, we're not going to do the exercise for the NFC, but you could look at 6-7 teams that you think are surging into a potential playoff spot in the NFC. I think the Bears are going to be better. I think the Falcons are going to be better. Like, you can get Seahawks are going to be better. Like, you can look at teams in the NFC and you can kind of see. Like, for 2 spots, there could be 6 or 7 teams. And that just doesn't feel like now that's good for the Titans in theory, because it means there's probably a bunch of games that you have an opportunity that could be swing games. So if you're playing Jacksonville and Indianapolis and some of the other games, New England is a huge swing game. I know you think Vrabel comes here and wins, but that's a
huge swing for New England.
it's a huge swing for both teams. And so, Cleveland later in the year, like that's a swing game. If you can beat the bad teams and the bad teams end up being bad, there's opportunity there. Whereas I don't think this would be a good year for the Titans to be like an NFC team, where they have to sort of find progress and growth in a conference where there's a lot of like average teams getting better, right? Like I think Carolina's better. So I don't know. I just think it's a good year to be in the AFC potentially.
Do you think that there are for the kind of artificial turf that they have at Nissan Stadium? Do you think they like have a shampooer for that
to clean it?
Yeah, because after the Patriots come here, they're going to be like blood that they need
okay.
to wash off of that. I can't see how anybody thinks anything different than that Mike Vrabel is going to bring a team here that is going to find every single advantage and beat the living shit out of the Titans.
Look, I think the Titans can win that game for the same reasons that you think Vrabel is going to destroy that game. And one of us.
What makes you think that they can win that game?
I like being a contrarian in this.
Do you know Vrabel?
I've met him.
I mean, do you know what he's going to be up doing the Tuesday before that game?
Oh no, he's not even preparing for any of the first 6 opponents. He's just preparing for the Titans.
They might have had a Titans day every couple days of camp.
Evan Ingram, Titan killer. Yeah, they have weapons around Bo Nix.
Evan Ingram.
He's not a great player.
Jacksonville did some damage.
But they have weapons in space for that Denver offense. They have a great pass rush. They got good corners. Like, that's a good football team. I'm just saying.
Bustin' Diamond's not that high on Drake May. But Drake May unrushed and untouched and steamed up by McDaniel.
Are you suggesting that 18 seconds is enough time to make a play?
Yes, I am.
Coach, hang on here. This is a good one here. Who is from the AFC will be the most disappointing? I think that's an interesting question. If Cincinnati, like the fact that Cincinnati's kind of buttoning things up, though, at the start of the season, getting the Hendrickson deal done, I think Cincinnati's, I don't think they can bust because of Burrow in the offense.
Did they do enough on defense?
No, I don't.
I mean, they had some substantial defensive problems last year, and I don't know that they dug in on defense enough. I think signing Higgins was probably a mistake, and that they should have done more on defense. I know that's who they are.
Next year.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake this year. Eventually, it might not work out. But I think it's Miami, Indianapolis, and Cleveland potentially. Those are the 3 that I feel like could be over. I think Miami is the most overrated, frankly, because somebody has to be picked like 9th in the conference. I don't know
that anybody's rating them, though. I think everybody's done with Miami. I think the Jets will be better coached, but I just don't see anything out of quarterback there.
Agree. They have some high-end talent, though, on defense in particular. So
yeah, they'll win some defensive games.
You got a Super Bowl pick? You want to throw that out there real fast? Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, PaulKuharsky.com.
Well, I don't know who they're going to beat, but I've been choosing between 2 teams in the NFC for the Super Bowl, and so I'll go ahead and pick my winner right now. I'm really high on 2 teams from the same division in the NFC, Tampa Bay and Atlanta.
I like Atlanta a lot.
I like them both a lot, but I'm going to go Tampa Bay
to win the Super Bowl.
I'm going to go Tampa Bay to win the Super Bowl. They're going to upset. Let's go Tampa Bay over the Bills.
God, that would be an ugly jersey. That'd be an ugly helmet jersey Super Bowl.
Maybe the Bills could wear their new uniforms that look nothing like Bills uniforms.
Just all
Bills
white.
and Raiders uniforms.
All white. I like the Tampa pick, though. I think they've got a lot of weapons, and the time is now for Tampa, right? They got some veteran pieces that have been around a long time. The time is now. I do like Atlanta there in the NFC also. I just don't. I would, had Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson stayed put, I would be picking the Lions. But I think that is too much brain powered off of that staff.
Yeah, I agree.
For Detroit to be there. So I think Detroit is a slight step back. I also think that division is maybe the best in football. I think we have not seen a division get all 4 teams into the playoffs, right? But I wouldn't.
I don't know if it's mathematically possible.
You could get 3 wild cards from the same division, I think.
3, yeah.
But so if the Lions are the winners, Vikings, Packers, Bears, one of them probably doesn't make it. But I think Bears are much better. I trust Ben Johnson.
It's all on Caleb now. I mean,
I trust Ben Johnson.
The weaponry and things are set up for him.
They have so much talent around him on offense. It is extraordinary how much talent they have. So
I will say on Bucks Falcons, the one that sweeps Saints and Panthers got to sweep two bad teams.
Yeah. I agree with that. All right, so let's get into some success here for the Titans. Let's get back to the Titans here, and I want to, and I'm going to play a clip from Gunnar Helm a little bit. I had a chance for about a minute and a half with him, and just kind of being a rookie and having a chance to kind of live your dream here in week 1. So I wanted to kind of play that for you guys coming up in just a moment. But I want you to define success and progress for this team. Obviously, if they win a couple more games, that's easy to define. That's easy for all of us to see and say, hey, they're 5 and 6 wins or 7 wins. That's clear progress. Anything over 6, I think, is a huge success. So I think you're probably in the 5-6 range. And if they go into that 5-6 range, which technically is progress, I don't know if it's success, though. And so I want to know how they get to those 5 or 6 wins matters. What is success in your opinion in 2025? Let's define it now so that at the end of the year we can come back and be like, hey, they did that. They didn't do this.
Well, first and foremost, it's solid progress from Cam Ward. A largely graph that looks like that. It's going to have some jagged stuff. We know progress isn't linear, but still, I seek something that in a big 30,000 foot view looks semi-linear, and that ends well.
It's got to be stock. It's going to be like a stock market. There's no question about that.
You'd like them to end well. You'd like them to be a good decision maker, an accurate thrower, a guy who recovers from mistakes that he's bound to make well, rather than letting them compound, which is what we saw from Will Levis, generally speaking. And second to that, I would say, where did they put the resources? Dan Moore was a pretty big resource. Zeitler, not an insignificant resource. And that move then moved their number 1 pick from last year to the other side of the line. The Moore signing did. That offensive line has been a problem for a significant stretch of time. I need to see that it's fixed to a significant degree. Fixed to the point where next year you're either re-signing Zeitler or you're shifting Jackson Slater to right guard, and you don't have to spend resources on the offensive line, except maybe a mid-round pick if there's somebody that you love and feel like can develop into your next tackle down the road, which even that would be early, right?
Well,
Kuharsky insurance, or
Cushenberry's going to need a replacement at some point.
Yeah, but maybe that's Slay. Yeah, an interior lineman who can whatever. Nothing on your huge list of needs touches offensive line after this year, because you feel really good about your 5, and maybe even Udo or Hance, or one of those guys. Maybe your top 6 you feel great about.
I think but Bustin says the right thing here about Cam, in my opinion, which is he cannot be the reason for lost games. And I don't think he's going to be, but I think that's the first floor and the first step that I think you call, hey, that's a successful step. He wasn't the reason that he was bringing the rest of the team down, which means he belongs, which means he's worthy of the number 1 pick, and he belongs as a starter. I think you're going to see what you're probably going to see, and I don't know if this goes on like drive by drive or throw by throw or game by game, but you're going to start with like 1 out of 3 is going to be good. 1 out of 3 throws, 1 out of 3 drives, 1 out of 3 games. And then you want to see it be 2 out of 3 by the end of the year. And that's sort of, I know that's a super basic way to explain it, but I think that's what you want to see, is you want it to convert from a little bit more mistakes than success to a little bit more success than mistakes. And then I think the other way, I agree with you on the offensive line. I think that's a main one. I think it is about the last 2 draft classes and your premium picks since all the failure of John Robinson. If Latham and Skoronski are 2 of the best offensive linemen at their positions in the AFC, in the South, whatever, which I think Skoronski will be, Latham has a chance. I think that's a key. If Brownlee is truly a starting cover corner, if Tavondre Sweat plays, what did he play, like 16 out of 17 last year or something like that, or all 17 last year? If he's contributing at that level. If one of Gray or Williams takes a hold of the starting job, doesn't have to be great, but takes a hold of the starting job. Kevin Winston, Gunnar Helm, either Iomanner or DK, see the young talent stepping into roles and showing everybody that, hey, I'm going to be this player for the next 4 or 5 years. And I think if that happens, that's also a major sign of success, which means the last 2 draft classes, which have been the thing we've talked about, right? It's Sweat and it's Brownlee, it's Gray, it's Williams, it's Ward, it's Latham, it's like those are the pieces we've talked about all camp. And if those are still the pieces we're talking about at the end of the season, I think it will have been a very successful year. I don't know if you're going to get I think 6 wins is probably the high water mark. I could see 7, but I think 5 or 6 is what you need to prepare for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd be in that ballpark if I talk numbers.
Hypothetically, if I was ever to say a record on a team, who do you actually like to take the biggest steps forward this year? Who do you actually think becomes I'm saying if, right, about all this stuff. Yeah. If this, if that. Do you have players that you feel very confident about becoming much bigger pieces? And I'm not talking about the Cody Bartons and L'Jarius Sneeds and Calvin, because I think Calvin Ridley's much better this year. But
yeah, I feel very good about Skoronski. We've talked a lot about Skoronski. I think Skoronski, I don't know that he's ever going to be worth his pick. But I think he'll look like a first-round guard.
Which is hard to do, honestly.
Yeah. But a first-round guard to me is, 25.
Are you buying the McCreary Chig contract year growth?
I'm buying it for McCreary. But I do think there's a cap on what you spend for nickel. And quite frankly, they've got a lot of nickels. Like Brownlee is really a nickel. If you had a fully stocked cornerback room, Brownlee would be best as a nickel. Marcus Harris would be best as a nickel. So if they come out next year and really attack corner in the draft, depending on what kind of money McCreary's looking for, I could see them not renewing him. The rationale for renewing him is you don't want, with this roster in this state, to let people go who fill jobs well because you create a need. And you don't want to be creating needs. And I like Roger. I think Roger's a feisty, smart guy who fills a role well.
Honestly, if you have Sneed, I know that they may not be perfect for their roles, but Brownlee, Sneed, and McCreary, they have the right dog mentality for Denard Wilson's defense. And so if they are all healthy, they are all feisty. They all like to be physical at the line of scrimmage. They all like to attack. They don't mind tackling. Those are all nice qualities in a set of cornerbacks. I think Brownlee takes a big step forward. I don't know about Javondre Sweat. I think if he does take a big step forward, that is the biggest development for the team. No pun intended. I think it is. If they can lock down most rushing attacks with their 3 or 4 front players, that's going to open up a ton of opportunity for Barton and or his linebacking partner to make plays. It's going to allow the corners to roll up and be aggressive. I think the Sweat piece is such an important piece that if he and Simmons are dominant, which I think they can be, that draft class is the big one, honestly. Brownlee, Sweat, and one of those linebackers as well. So I think Gunnar Helm's going to be a hell of a player this year. So.
I'm not anticipating huge things from Sweat. Just guys who miss a lot of camp and heavy guys who miss a lot of camp. I'm wary of. So
got to see it. Got to prove it.
Look forward to him showing it.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Got to prove it. All right. So before we get into sort of pressure real quickly, and Nick wrote a huge story about this. So he and I will talk about this a lot coming up on Thursday. But this is about a minute here, a minute and a half of Gunnar Helm. I kind of had a chance to ask him about, look, he's been thinking about playing in the NFL his whole life. And I get kind of romantic about these moments for these young.
Do.
Yeah, look, I like it. I think it's okay to be a human, PK. I know you're devoid of all humanity.
No, I think it's a nice story. It's no surprise.
Of course not. And then kind of how he handles himself, how he gets prepared. I am also interested in sort of self-motivation tactics. Alec Iomanner is a very chill dude, and I ask him about that. He has to kind of like find ways to motivate himself. Some guys have to find ways to bring themselves down. Some guys function really well up here. Some guys function better down low. So I'm kind of interested in that. had a chance to talk to him, and he told us exactly what song he listens to every single game. So here was Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you dreamed of living in this your whole life, and now the time comes, and now you got to establish a whole routine and kind of get yourself in the right headspace before you get on a plane on Saturday and head to Denver. But just kind of stick to what I've always done best, and that is develop a routine and getting myself ready so that every game is the same.
Is it about kind of removing all of that from the game, like take the noise away, your experience, all that time you've been thinking about it over your life, and just sort of take it back to just exactly reps and training and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be noise in every game. It's kind of what you got to deal with, as your career goes through college and into the professional level. Whether that's playing back at home or playing maybe in a stadium that you've played in before, or anything to that magnitude. But like I said, just developing that routine so that everything feels the same.
I was talking to Alec about how he kind of needs to get himself up for stuff. Like, he's kind of a chill dude. And do you have a certain pregame thing that you have to get yourself up? Do you bring yourself down? What's sort of your mindset going in on game day? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I mean, something that really helps me out a lot is just listening to the same song when I get on the bus. And then after that, that's kind of it for the getting myself, I would say, fired up phase. I feel I play best when I'm pretty level-headed and calm and, not trying to psych myself up and just listening to the play call and being sound to my assignment.
What's the song?
Joker and the Thief. After that, it's pretty mellow.
Yeah. It's Wolfmother, right?
That's right, yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
yeah, of course.
There you go, Gunnar Helm. Any thought on the locker room layout, PK? I know you were talking about that a lot yesterday when we went in there. What's your thought?
I mean, I think it's fine. It feels like some guys like moved to different parts of town. Like Amani Hooker's been on the shower side for his whole career. Now he's on the other side. So it's a little foreign. They're all used to it. It takes some getting used to for us. I thought I don't know if you remember who's on Simmons' left, if we're looking at him. Tyler Lockett's on his right.
He's got James, not directly, but like maybe a locker or two. I think it's James Williams, Bryce Oliver, Jalen Harrell, I think, right there. Cody Barton, I think, is right to the left of Simmons, I think.
Okay, so
maybe.
here's my takeaway on that. So I initially look at that and I think, oh, shit, Simmons is going to hurt our access to Barton and Lockett. And he's going to be sour when we're around those guys and influence them. But that's not what it's about. Those guys are put around Simmons to influence Simmons. Tyler Lockett, a consummate pro. And Cody Barton is enthusiastic. Now, this isn't a media. They didn't put him there for media stuff.
Right.
But that he's surrounded. This is a big-time player, Jeffrey Simmons. Typically, he would have young people on either side of him to influence. And he's got Tyler Lockett, who's one of the most experienced guys on the roster, and Cody Barton, the other defensive captain, next to him. That is not an accident.
Okay, that's interesting. What about Cam Ward being between Ridley and Cushenberry? That's not an accident.
No, that's not an accident either. But Cam Ward's a rookie. I mean, you would expect
right. That's what I'm saying.
He would be surrounded by guys.
That's the example of the other way around.
Yeah, this is a leadership message to Simmons. I have no doubt.
Okay.
That Lockett, a consummate pro, and Barton, an up-and-comer, who's also got leadership characteristics. I wrote some about that in my Cody Barton piece, are surrounding Jeff. And I think no fear of Jeff, I don't want to say poisoning them, but having a negative influence on them, a belief that these guys can have positive influence on Jeff.
Let me ask you, this is a media question here, but I think like Barton clearly is a vocal leader on the field. So that is a thing that we can say, hey, he does this for the team all the time. That is an example of his style of leadership. But he's a great quote. And so there is a difference, is there not, between a guy that we all go to because he's well-spoken and thoughtful and articulate and interesting and gives great quotes. That should not necessarily, like, the fact that he's a good leader is because he's a good leader and he's talking on the field, not because he's coming to somebody that we go to, even though, like, from our perspective, that de facto becomes part of the voice of the locker room. But I think there is a delineation there, is there not?
Well, if you watch the video they put out yesterday, which was basically their hour-long training camp video, very defense heavy because the previous one coming out of minicamp and OTAs was offense. This wasn't as good because the quarterback room stuff was really good in the last one. It told you a lot you didn't know. I didn't think this was as good. It was really heavy on performative Simmons. But it was keyed on Simmons and Barton was leading his ass off with the young guys, talking to Cedric Gay, talking to Williams. So there's no doubt about the legitimacy of his on-field leadership. He's telling Williams one time, like, you got to get him outside, take his leg and get him, because the next guy is me and I'm 20 yards away. And if you miss that, that's first down and new set of downs. And if you just hold him up there, and get him down, we're off the field. Just really good communication and conversation. I think he's the real deal. Now, I don't know how well he's going to play. Particularly against the pass. Some of his numbers last year against the pass, and I addressed that in the piece, were not great. But he is legitimately the center of that defense.
Yeah. I just want to point out, like, there are guys we all go to because they're good quotes and because they're good with us that it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they are inside the locker room on the field. Barton happens to be one that is both.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's plenty of guys that are great quotes that don't have a big enough role yet. It's not their fault. Like, I mean, I think Khalil Mullings, if he's stayed on the team for a long time, will be a great quote. He is a super smart dude, great quote, super interesting guy, but he's not in a position to be a leader right now. It's not.
There's other guys who are the other way. Like, I wish I could quote Amani Hooker more regularly, and I talk more to Amani Hooker with no notebook or camera out. And Amani Hooker is a terrific guy, and I think a good leader and an underrated football player. But he's not a particularly quotable guy.
I think that's a good example. He's a guy I want to go talk to all the time, and then you're kind of just like, well, but he's kind of by the book when he comes to outwardly. But I think he's on the field doing everything he's supposed to, and people respect that and look up to him. So,
and he knows everything that's going on. He said a thing or two to me during our time together that were exceptionally meaningful, that showed me he's got a real finger on the pulse of what's going on in that room overall and between the team and the media, that weren't for on the record stuff. Sure. That is an important tell.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to save most of this conversation. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, of course, great barbecue, great brisket, award-winning brisket. And if you go, you got to go Wednesday through Sunday. So 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., 11 a.m. Wednesday through Sunday, Sinkers Beverages for all your beverage needs. They got great allocations. They have great bourbon selection. I went in there the other day, and they had a bottle of Blanton. They had 2 bottles of Blanton's just sitting there on a shelf. I haven't seen that in years in any liquor store. But they've got great access to great bourbon. So if you're a bourbon brown water guy like I am, make sure you're checking out Sinkers Beverages. Sign up for the in-crowd. They'll give you all kinds of access to cool allocations, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously sign up or go to Sinkers, search Sinkers, if I could speak. Search Sinkers on Uber Eats when you're hanging out this weekend celebrating the start of the NFL season. Make sure you have that booze delivered directly to your house. No reason to go get it on your own when Sinkers will deliver it right to you through Uber Eats. So go to Uber Eats, search Sinkers, deliver it right to your house. All right. I'm going to spend a lot more time with Nick on Thursday about this. He just wrote this long story, but hot seat's not the word I want to use with this conversation, but there's a lot of pressure because Callahan decided to keep Nick Holes, decided to keep Denard Wilson. They kept that group together, and the Titans decided as a group to keep that group in charge. And so I want to know how, like, if the progress happens, obviously they're in good shape. They're all coming back. Everybody's good. Brinker, I guess, is under a little bit more of a microscope than Borgonzi, certainly having been here, but it seems like he's got a fresh slate as well. Who is under the most pressure in all this? Is it just Brian Callahan and everyone else kind of goes as Brian Callahan goes because they have hitched their wagon to him? How should fans look at the conversation around security for a lot of these big pieces in the organization?
I think it's Callahan, but I think Callahan's I want to believe that Callahan's line that he needs to get beyond in order to be safe is not what fans believe. I don't think it's a straight number of wins. They need to win more games than they won last year. But I think if they do the things that we've talked about, if the offensive line is better, if Cam Ward shows steady progress, it's going to be a jagged line. But if the line is higher, at the end of the season than it is at the beginning of the season, and we see improvement. I think Brian Callahan, all indications are, is going to be safe. Cam's campaigned for it already a couple times, once unsolicited. And I believe that Brinker and Borgonzi have sold Amy Adams-Strunk to this point on that. Now,
1-9 start changes that real fast.
Right. Now, if the results change it, or if the people who whisper in her ear are not or overwhelm Brinker and Borgonzi, that's a problem. Brinker has to maintain his status as the chief whisperer. If he can be the chief whisperer, I think he wants patience and knows that change for Cam Ward is not a good or healthy thing. And I think he, would do his best to discourage other people he knows might whisper to Amy, not to whisper to Amy. But you don't know where that's coming from or who's got power.
Brinker is a clown, says Barton. I'm not sure where you're getting that. I'm curious. So 5 or 6 wins is kind of where I'm at. If they get to 5 wins and Cam Ward is solid, that is a sign of progress and growth in the future. Generally speaking, we all know what happens when a coach is close to the hot seat or close to being fired, but isn't. The first order of business is to make changes on the staff. Is there a range? If they are at 4 wins, there are changes coming, but Callahan stays. If they're at 6 wins, ballpark, everybody's back. Like, how do you feel? And I really don't like putting a number on it, but 4 wins is not progress, even if the team does actually make progress, right?
I mean, if the team doesn't get that much better and it's largely a defensive problem, do you consider changing the defensive staff? How loyal is Callahan? He doesn't have a lot of strength. Denard was kind of a ran guy a little bit. I don't know. How much can you pin on Denard Wilson if they're losing on defense and it's because they can't rush the passer? Well,
I mean, that's not his fault.
That's more personnel driven. Yeah. And it's not going to be a surprise. I mean, we know that they don't have the personnel to rush the passer. So there's a lot of nuance and circumstances here that we'll have to delve into.
Sure. I do think you're right to look at because that was the worst Titans defense we've seen since before Vrabel, frankly. And if they are just as bad this year on defense and the rest of the team gets better, I could see, I don't want to say a sacrificial lamb is not the right term here, but and they get to 5 wins, things still aren't good, but the offense clearly was scoring points at a higher level than last year. The defense is just as bad. You could see some pressure coming down on Denard Wilson. Deserved or otherwise.
I do think Eddie's right here. He says, how many wins does beating Vrabel count for? Amy has to have that one circle. How many losses does the bloodbath I'm anticipating count for?
It's just double.
Fortunately, that game's not too late in the season. Earlier is better. Yeah. Early is better than late.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Enjoy your first weekend. Nick and I, of course, will be back on Thursday to preview the Denver game and kind of set some expectations for more conversation around the front office and the coaching staff as well. We'll have some more practice reports and news and notes for you guys as well at the end of the year or at the end of the week. PaulKuharsky.com. Great story about Cody Barton, so go check that out as well. And you can catch me doing all kinds of college stuff over there on the website also. So stay tuned for more good stuff there. And you know what? Just keep those notifications turned on today. That's all I'm going to say. For Paul, I am Braden. Thank you guys all for hanging out. Thank you guys all for listening. We will talk to you next time.
Cheers.